Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Tax Matters. My name is Rudolph Masia and I will be your host. Today we'll be discussing the deregistration of a tax type. We have found out that taxpayers are struggling with this. We have invited SARS specialist, Mr. Martin Naidu, with us today into the studio to take us through the process. So Martin, tell us, what does the deregistration of a tax type mean? And is there any legislation applicable to this?
Well, Rudolph, thank you for the invite. Firstly, we must understand the deregistration of a tax type is the actual cancelling of a tax type. And viewers must please note it's only valid once SARS finalizes the deregistration. Only then the taxpayer doesn't have a obligation with regards to their deregistered tax type. Yes, there is legislation that speaks about the process of deregistration, and viewers are urged to make reference to it. For ease of reference, we will actually post it on the SARS website.
So tell us, Martin, who can request for a deregistration of a tax type?
Okay, the following persons can request for deregistration or cancellation of a tax type: the individual taxpayer, the executor of a deceased estate, the curator of an insolvent estate, representative of a company or cooperative, a main member of a CC, representative of a government entity, or the main trustee of a trust.
Why will a person want to deregister for a tax type?
Okay, there are 5 instances when a tax type needs to be deregistered or cancelled. One is when the company, CC, cooperative, or any other tax types are dormant and no longer trading. Next is the deregistration is actually initiated by SARS itself. When we establish that the company or the individual has duplicate tax numbers, when a taxpayer emigrates from South Africa or a non-resident leaves South Africa and they no longer have income or assets, then also we have deceased, insolvent, and your liquidated estates that will request for deregistration.
So what are the tax types that can be deregistered?
Okay, common request that we do receive is your personal income tax, your company income tax, your value-added tax, your PAYE. When you deregister for PAYE, you get deregistration for UIF and Skills Development Levy as well, your SDL.
So if I'm no longer a functioning business and I want to deregister for VAT, how do I do it?
Since you're only mentioning VAT, so I'm assuming you only want to deregister for VAT, firstly, you need to book an appointment with SARS on the SARS website. That's www.sars.gov.za. You need to complete and submit a VAT 123E form if you're deregistering the main branch, and a VAT 123T form if you're deregistering any separate branches. This actually forms part of your supporting documents. On it, you must clearly indicate the date that you cease to be a VAT vendor.
So how do I deregister as an employer if the business is no longer operating?
Okay, you can follow the following processes. Firstly, if you registered for e-filing, we included a new functionality to deregister for PAYE, UIF, and SDL. That you'll find under the registration maintenance. Alternatively, you can book an appointment with SARS on the SARS website. That's www.sars.gov.za. You're going to complete and submit an EMP 123E form that forms part of the supporting documentations. You must clearly indicate on that form when you cease to be an employer. Lastly, you can send your request via email to contact us at sars.gov.za, or if you're a tax practitioner, you can use pcc@sars.gov.za.
So upon deregistration, what obligations does an employer have?
Okay, the employer firstly needs to inform SARS within 14 days of ceasing to be an employer. They must submit a reconciliation, which is the EMP 501. They need to issue out the IRP5s or the IT3A certificates to their employees within 7 days of ceasing to be an employer.
What supporting documents are required for companies and trusts upon deregistration?
Okay, for companies, firstly, the taxpayer needs to apply via the Companies and Intellect Property Commission, known as CIPC. You can only deregister with CIPC if you are tax compliant. Once the process has been completed with CIPC, they will give you proof of deregistration, which they will then actually submit to SARS. They also need to include 12-month bank statement, and this will be at the end of the application date to deregister. For a trust, they need a letter from the Master of High Court to confirm the termination date. It also needs to include the minutes of the trustees' meetings and the resolution to terminate the trust. And also they need to include the distribution list and the financial statements until termination date.
I know this is quite a process. Do you have any tips to make it easier, Martin?
Yes, I do. Remember, Rudolph, you cannot deregister if you have any outstanding debt with SARS, if you have outstanding returns, if you're under audit, or if you're under investigations. Next, we need to understand that the forms need to be completed fully and signed. We usually find that these forms are incomplete and actually delays the process. If you're requesting a deregistration via email, we need a copy of the taxpayer's ID. If you're submitting the deregistration on behalf of a taxpayer, then we will need a special power of attorney. If you deregistration based on immigration, then we need your passport and the date that you left South Africa. And as mentioned before, if you're deregistering a company, we need the letter from CIPC. And if you're deregistering a trust, then we'll need the letter from the Master of High Court. We need the minutes of the meeting, the resolutions. We'll also need the distribution list and the financial statements until termination date.
Thank you, Martin. This has been very useful. To our viewers, thank you for watching. You can download the full presentation on how to deregister tax types on the SARS website. Remember to always do the right thing. Your tax matters.